Good morning. I think I want to handle, or try to handle, an issue I think is going to be really key if I can get people to understand it correctly, which is to say, if I understand it correctly and if I present it in such a way that it grabs their attention. Fundamentalism. That's the topic. So fundamentalism is what we usually think of when we think of the of certain Christian groups, and it is a dogmatic adherence to certain principles, and to those principles are certain ways of interpreting the Bible, particularly, as well as generally a set of principles about how Christianity should interact with the world and influence government and that kind of thing, and what kind of moral stances we should take. Most fundamentalism is inward looking. It does not see other people groups. It only sees its own people. And it sees everyone else as either an enemy to its own people, or potential converts. And that's the only lens it has with which to see the world. So, for instance, fundamentalists do not have come to the point where they don't really see friendships outside of Christianity. And if you hold a different political position as they do, they see you as an obstacle and a sinner instead of a person, right? You're only a person if you become a Christian to a fundamentalist. And they'd probably, no, that's not true. But if you look at their behavior, they act as if that's the case, right? Okay, now I'm going to shift. And I suspect very few people are going to be happy with this shift. I would suggest that religious and Christian fundamentalism is not the only fundamentalism, especially in our polarized time. I would suggest that what we have in certain, especially new atheist types, and certain academic types, is a scientific fundamentalism, which means, well, kind of what I just said. If you are not on their side about how science, the degree to which science ought to be the way we see the world, and the fact-finding thing, and the authority structure for humanity, if you're not on board with that, then you are an obstruction, and you are to be derided. You're not necessarily to be made friends with, unless there's something to be gained by it, of course. Maybe your conversion, maybe because you're a colleague, but you're an obstruction, basically. Now, there is a shift, and that shift is towards what I would call the street epistemological atheist. Street epistemology atheists, maybe. I like these guys a lot better. I can talk with these guys, man. I can be friends with these guys. The new atheists drive me nuts. I can't stand their rhetoric. I find it poison because it is fundamentalist. It doesn't treat others as people. It treats them as obstructions. And frankly, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of it from the Christians, and I'm tired of it from the atheists. It's counterproductive. It's polarizing. It's destructive to our culture. So my model is that we have the personal sphere and the common sphere. And the only thing that goes in the commons is that which everyone can agree is common within a group, right? Within a nation, within a... How strict am I on that? I'm 80 to 98%. Okay, I know that's a bit of a spread, but it gives you an idea. I'm really pretty rigid on this. There are people that we can say, okay, they have excluded themselves from the group by the very nature of their behavior. But we got to be careful with that, right? Because if we do that to too many groups, we're not creating a commons anymore. And we have to create a commons. We have to create something that is formulated to bridge the gaps. And if we're not doing that, I would argue we are basically fundamentalists, just like the Christian fundamentalists. Now, I'm a Christian, so I'm not trying to make fun of or overly criticize the fundamentalist. I was a fundamentalist. I discovered that I could not believe that God contradicted himself, or that there was a contradiction in my theology. Therefore, I had to leave fundamentalism. And since then, which was a very long process to untangle for me, I didn't know how to just break, because to me I had to analyze each step of the process and make sure I was making a good decision. Because to me, a belief system is not a whole. It's a series of steps, it's a series of choices, it's a series of parts. And each of those parts have to be analyzed if we are to get a true worldview. So, I know I've talked about my deconversion from young Earth creationism over the series of these episodes, these whatever they are, notes. But okay, I'm gonna step away from that because I've handled that elsewhere. So I'm gonna have to have a very tight. Okay, never mind. So another fundamentalism, of course, is I'm not sure, honestly, if there are right-wing fundamentalists right now. I think when there is a fundamentalist pole, the other pole rejects fundamentalism. And I think that's happening in Christianity right now because there is a fundamentalist pole on the left. It's not called that, of course. I'm identifying it as that because I see the pattern. The pattern is, we are right, you are wrong. We will not talk with you. You have nothing to add to the conversation. Is that everyone on the left? Of course not. But there's a very loud group on the left that is doing this. A fundamentalist, postmodern, or maybe postmodern, because they don't talk about postmodernism anymore. They don't even talk about truth, right? They just talk about feeling. And then they react with their feelings. And there's nothing more fundamentalist than that. Your core values stream into your emotions and then out into your behavior without any checks, any factual checks on your behavior, on your behavior or on your thoughts. That's fundamentalism at its ugliest. Fundamentalism that has checks, well, it's still fundamentalism. It's still a problem because it doesn't aim at the commons. It doesn't treat other people as common human beings. Because here's the thing, and with this I'll end. In the old days, if my group disagreed with your group, we battled it out, and the winner won and the loser was dead, or was so beaten down that they pretty much become your slaves or your underlings. And so you win. Your idea wins. Your ideology wins. And your fundamentalism survives completely without any further opposition. That was the word I'm looking for. But we're not in a world like that anymore. We don't kill our opposition. We assume then that when we win a battle in courts, in politics, on the streets, in a protest, that we've won. Yay! We've defeated the enemy. No. In fact, we've actually made them stronger, made them more dedicated to their way of thinking. And that's why we can't continue this stupid cycle of polarization. We have to aim towards commonality and away from fundamentalism. But in your personal sphere, you can be as fundamentalist as you want, as long as you are able to move out of that sphere and join the rest of humanity in saying, oh, everybody else is human too, and I've got to live with them in the same world. So I might as well negotiate with them about what kind of world that's going to be, instead of demanding that my fundamentalism exists out there in the world and in the law. Whether it's scientific fundamentalism or liberal fundamentalism or libertarian. Well, I haven't seen any problems with libertarians, except for they're a little crazy here and there. Okay, I got to get to work. Thank you for your time. I hope that was useful. I hope it'll incite further conversations. Thank you very much.